Here's what happened. At the start of April, I stopped using deodorant, and it's been fucking wild for the experience. I'm continuing to not use deodorant moving forward. I'm really grateful for my life partner, Adriana, for putting up with this and also providing me with evidence from her smelling me that I don't actually smell like shit all the time without deodorant. And that was a belief I had, was that I would smell like shit. And it's not true. I actually can smell decent without deodorant, but it's based off of what I'm feeling, which is so interesting and ties into what it taught me about hidden stress. And for you, as you're building your business, it can be really important to recognize that your body is giving you signals, some of which you might be either suppressing, you could be masking for those signals. And one of them for me was deodorant. I was masking one of my body signals that was letting me know when I was feeling anxious and feeling stressed. Understanding that when I'm relaxed and open and light, I don't smell bad. I actually smell decent. That blew my mind. I didn't even think that was really, really possible. But Adriana, she's been able to confirm that for me. And so I want to share this with you, not for like you have to do the 30 days without deodorant thing. Like you could do that too if you want. But it's helped me to face fears that I've had since I was I think all the way back to high school, even probably before that. It helps me to face that fear and be able to realize that there are a lot of beliefs that have been holding me back and that are disempowering beliefs, where if I can change those beliefs, I can release a lot of hidden stress that I didn't even realize I was holding on to. So that's what I get excited to talk to you about. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you've been doing a bunch of different stuff. And so welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. And if you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. I want to get present with you now. We're going to take a deep inhale through the nose. Going to exhale it out through the mouth, because I know you've got a lot of shit and challenges you've been dealing with leading up to this moment, if that's in building the business, in other areas of life too. And then you've probably got a lot of shit and challenges you got to deal with afterwards. And so this is the time for you to recharge, get present, gain some insights so that you can continue to give to those people that are in your life that I know you care about so much. So deep inhale through the nose. Here you go. And then release it out through your mouth. There you go. Nice. All right, 2 commitments for you. First commitment is to continue to grow the show. It wouldn't be possible without your support. So thank you for being here. The second commitment I have for you is to be honest with you for setting the expectations of what it takes to make burnout extinct. Based off of my own experience of hitting burnout and then moving through that, through the insights that I've gathered, through the insights of guests that come on and share with you their knowledge, I want to tell you and remind you, it absolutely is possible for you to make burnout extinct. One of my main reasons for hitting my burnout after the social media conference I founded, where 500 people came together in 2018, was lying. I lied so much along the way, and that created an intense amount of pressure in my body where I felt trapped of how the hell am I going to release this? So I just held on to it. And it got to a point where then my body forced the pressure to be released and that stress to be released out of the body. And that was hitting burnout. And I don't want that for you. It's a lot of unnecessary pain and unnecessary suffering that I wouldn't want on anyone to have to experience something like that. And so my value now is honesty, not just in the business and how I show up for you in the show, but for my life. And I will do the best that I can to be honest with you for setting those expectations. I'll make mistakes because nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But I'll do the best I can when I do make those mistakes to be able to share that with you so that you know that. Thank you for being here. Let's dive into it. 30 days without deodorant. Oh, man. There was a lot of excitement with diving into this, a lot of nervousness. What sparked this was my health. I think about this. I talk about how burnout is interconnected with all areas of life. It really ties close to your health and how you're taking care of your body. I want to take care of my body so my body can take care of me and help me to get what I want out of this business that I'm building and for my quality of life. And that's something else I want for you with your body, is to realize your body is on your team. And this, going through this process, has been another reminder of that, and it reconfirmed that for me. But the reason to start was health. Simplest way to explain it for me of what got me into it was I understand more about the world. I go back to this line that you can write down. The more you understand, less fear grows. I had a lot of fear growing up as a kid, a lot of fear that looking back, I realized was unnecessary. Because what happened was it created a lot of unnecessary stress, now a lot of unnecessary pain. And then now as an adult, I realized how silly some of those fears were to have. Like this fear that I can't be seen, the fear the fear of embarrassment. Like I can move through that. I can get on to the other side. Like I'm going to be okay. I'm going to survive this. But I had to build the evidence to be able to let go of those beliefs that disempower me and be able to show up with new beliefs in my life. And there are moments where I get off track. Again, nobody's perfect, but it's having to remind myself when I get off track that I can get back on track as well. So those fears and wanting to understand the world, that's really what gets me curious and moves me forward to want to understand so that I can have less fear that grows in certain areas of life. One of them is my health. And so when I read ingredients that I don't understand on a deodorant that I've been using probably since at least high school, I know for sure, maybe even earlier than that for me it creates fear of like, and I don't understand this. And so looking at ingredients like green 6, violet 2, I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I don't know what this is. So looking it up a little bit more and doing research, noticing, synthetic dyes. And then I'm rubbing that on one of the largest organs for the body, the skin. And then there's like, I don't know what the long-term effects are of this. That tells me, okay, a change has to happen here. But I have a lot of fear around changing up my deodorant. I've did that before where I went to like try natural deodorants. And so even the thought of going without deodorant, like if you were to tell me that back in high school that I would do 30 days without deodorant, I'd freak out. And so there's a lot of fear that's there about this specific area. But what I learned was something even deeper and unexpected for myself. And I learned about certain beliefs that I've been carrying with me. One in particular that I had an opportunity to be able to let go of. And I'd actually taken this fear and put it into as I was building the business, because your beliefs, I mean, they seep into all these different areas of life. And so I realized it's holding me back in a lot of ways in my business too. And if I can then share that with you of what I've learned and understanding what has taught me about hidden stress, I think you can take this and you don't have to go through something like 30 days without deodorant for you to get the insight that I'm going to share with you. And the insight is that your body is constantly communicating with you. It's trying to let you know when you are headed towards hitting burnout, letting you know when you feel stress, feel anxious, and being able to help you to get back into balance for your body. And your nervous system is there to protect you and to keep you safe. And so when you can remind yourself that this is all there to support you, certain things that happen in your body, when you can start to understand what's going on, you don't have fear that bubbles up, but instead you can have clarity as to what needs to change for behaviors and actions. So the big breakthrough moment for me was that without wearing deodorant, I actually don't smell like shit if I have certain factors put in place. And what I want to do is share with you those factors, go through that process of like how I did it, if you're interested in doing this too for yourself. And then along the way, I'm going to share with you the insights that you can take with you as you're building your business. Because I will tell you, my confidence has expanded on a whole nother level of how I show up for you with this show up in life. It has opened up new doorways of possibility for myself and also helped me to realize how much I've been holding myself back with these beliefs and these fears. And what I want to help you with is taking the fear out of the driver's seat of your life. The fear will be there, but it's tapping into the courage and putting that in the place of in the driver's seat to help you to drive you towards what it is you want in this business for the growth and then for your own life as well. So let me get into inspiration behind this for what was coming up for starting the process, and then I'll get into some of the insights I learned. So for the inspiration, I want to take it back to 2016. That is where I focused on the food that I'm eating and noticing what foods can energize me and then what foods were draining me. That's where I went vegan for a long time, a few years. I'm thinking back, it might have been at least 4 years that I was vegan. But what I've now gotten to the point before doing this 30 days without deodorant is that I've taken away a lot of processed food and eaten mostly whole foods, animal-based proteins. I have those different sources. I have some cheese too, but it's very little processed food. And I noticed that was a big help for me for a factor of not smelling like shit, is having more whole foods that I'm eating. The other factor was staying hydrated. That's been something I've been focused on for years now, is staying hydrated, make sure I'm getting enough water in. That also helped me for factor to not smell like shit. The other one is making sure eating foods that I noticed for me for me to smell better. And so how I did that was just researching online. I would go to like ChatGPT and ask like, hey, I'm eating these foods. Which ones could help me smell better? Which ones am I missing? And that's been really helpful to figure out the right combinations of food, understanding the more foods that I eat that have that, like if it's onions or cheese, like that can create a stinkier smell. But the biggest factor, because those are all things I've done. And so that's like my baseline. But the biggest factor that has helped me to realize the biggest factor that has caused me to smell stinkier and smell more like shit is when I feel anxious and feel stressed. And that is interesting to have that realization because it breaks a previous belief that I had where I was carrying a lot of stress around. And that was this big pressure balloon that I was holding on to for years. I mean, decades. Because when I'm nervous, I do sweat. Like that happens for me. And all the way back in high school, I remembered if I forgot to put on deodorant, it'd be like code red. I'd freak out. And because I'm worried I'm going to smell like shit to going into the school, and then I have the fear of embarrassment with that, fear of judgment that comes up. Now, I'm not realizing all this at the time. Looking back, I can see that. But because of all those fears, then it would cause me to feel more anxious and feel more stressed. And then I was sweating even more. And so it became this vicious cycle where I thought that by worrying about it, I'm going to somehow stop it from actually happening. But what has helped me to start to let go of that belief was actually realizing that when I smell worse, it's when I am stressed and when I'm feeling anxious. And now I can actually smell that. And so it confirms that with the evidence. And then I have my life partner, Adriana, coming in and be like, oh yeah, you smell worse right now. Because I'd ask her, I was like, hey, do I smell worse? And so that helped me to gain the information to to notice that signal from my body, and has now helped me to release that stress that has built up over years, where I can now let that go, and that increases my capacity in my body to handle more growth in the business and other areas of life that I want to grow into, and helps me to then channel more energy into making sure the change happens, and then I can sustain that change, right? Because you can make the decision for the change, but then it's a whole other thing to sustain that change in the long term. So that's what is so cool that happened for me. And it was a big aha moment, because you could be masking a lot of signals from your body that you are feeling stressed and feeling anxious. There are different ways you can interpret stress and interpret feeling anxious. One is, pressure is how I think about it for these pressure balloons, is literally physically feeling pressure in the body. But then another one was scent. And I had no idea until I stopped using deodorant. I didn't know about this. And so then what it got me thinking about more was, okay, in high school, I had this fear. It stuck with me all the way till this point. It's not even really related to the business, but it can kind of seep into the business because I can still have that fear if I'm sweating of, oh, I'm gonna smell like shit. But if I can tell myself, oh, if you can realize that by worrying about it, that's not going to help you at all. It's not going to serve you. It's just going to make the problem worse. And so to have the evidence to be able to prove that helps my nervous system to figure out other ways to be able to release that stress out and deal with it rather than try to either ignore it or amplify it. And that comes back to different strategies that you can try out, which is for another conversation. But the point that I want to make with that is you can change these belief systems that you've had. And as a kid, I remembered in high school, like I had my arms together at my side, and I try to minimize the amount of stains, but then that would cause me to feel constricted. And then I felt like I couldn't be myself and really animated. Like I like to, use my hands a lot and how I communicate. And so at different moments, I felt like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't, which is interesting because that can lead into then this belief that I have to pretend or have to think of how do they want me to show up as other people rather than just showing up as me. And that becomes very exhausting. And that becomes another big pressure balloon. And so you start to get the picture that this stuff is all interconnected, right? It can fuel a bunch of different things. So realizing that was super helpful for me. It helped to reinforce, to focus on what is the belief that is hidden underneath this stress that I am feeling right now that I can address and focus on. So if I'm getting nervous to go and speak, I think about that. I've done that before on the show, as well as in public speaking. Back when we could go back to high school. Like I'd be really nervous to ask a question if I wasn't in a environment I was familiar with, or if I was with a group of strangers I didn't really know. I'd start shaking a little bit, and it'd be tough for me to ask a question because I don't know if they're gonna judge me. I don't know if I have this fear of embarrassment because I don't know them. But if you live your life like that, it's really hard to get into new situations and new opportunities in the business to be able to share the mission, share the message. Like that's going to be really fucking hard to do that shit. So I had to understand, okay, what's the belief that this is trying to tell me? And then what is a new belief that I can add into my belief system that if I put enough repetition for habits that help me to inevitably get to the point where I'm going to become familiar with that belief system, it'll help me to let go of the old belief system. So going back to speaking as the example, right? You think about it as a swing, that you only have one chain on the swing. That's just your old belief. So this fear that it goes back to like public speaking, the fear of being seen. That's the belief. I'm trying to get into situations where I get to speak in front of strangers, but that's where I'm shaking. My body's shaking. It's really hard for me to get a question out. I'm not being myself in that moment. That is when I don't have a new belief that's empowering. That's when I just have the disempowering belief. And so I'm swinging back and forth. It feels like I'm going nowhere. I'm stuck. It's chaotic. Now, the new belief is that I can tell myself it's possible for me to get better as a communicator. That's creating the possibility. It feels like I can bring that belief system into my life. Now, that is another chain for this swing, is how you can imagine it. So you're going to swing forward, but you're still going to go backwards. You're still going to have the moments where you get off track, where you feel depressed, feel angry, feel frustrated, and you make mistakes. But now I have two of these beliefs I'm holding on to, and I'm swinging back and forth. When I can then identify what is the habit, that's how you can imagine the swing, the actual physical pendulum movement. What is a habit that helps for me to put a rep in and get familiar with the new belief system that can create that evidence? That could be going and speaking in front of a group of strangers or just one stranger. That feels more comfortable. Let me talk to one stranger. And then from there, a group of 5, then 10, then it could be 50, 100, 1,000, 2,000, right? Like that is how this progresses. But the more repetitions I put in, the more familiar I get with this new belief that it's possible to be a better communicator. And then my nervous system gets to a point where it becomes familiar with this new belief. And when that happens, I can then up level that belief to say, I can be seen and communicate with passion, with drive, with certainty, what I want to share with the audience. And that becomes the new belief system that I'm working on. But how you can imagine it for the swing is you get off the swing, you jump off the swing, and then you get to move on to the next swing. And that starts with one chain. And then you just repeat that process over time. So I hope that makes sense for these swings. But what it's done, coming back to the experience of 30 days without deodorant, is that I realized I have a lot of these hidden stresses that I didn't know were even there. And then it's helped me to identify specifically what are those beliefs that I have been just carrying with me, thinking that that's just part of life. One of them is thinking that I'm going to smell like shit if I don't use deodorant, which now has been busted. And then it's helped me to realize that I can focus on all these different areas for habits that can support my body and help me to smell better and then help me to feel better. And then I can channel that energy into other areas of growth that I want in the business. But that is something that I couldn't even have imagined years ago of that actually happening. And so it's fascinating with it. The other thing that this has taught me moving forward is the importance of sticking with the habits that help me to feel better. So by not having the deodorant there, I can really smell when I'm off and realize what are the habits that I decided to not keep to stop doing that day. So that could be not getting enough water in. That could be not being able to focus on that belief and focus on the habits that help me to be able to bust the belief that underneath is causing me to feel stressed and feel anxious. Being able to eat the foods that are energizing for me and that can help me to smell better. Making sure I'm getting the workouts in and sweating, getting those toxins out, making sure that my lymphatic system is working properly, my liver, kidneys, they're functioning well. Am I able to make sure that they're taken care of? It creates a great reminder for me. And then I can change pretty quickly for my set where I'm not feeling so intense. So it's a great in the moment realization of what am I not doing right now that I need to change for the behavior and for the habits. And that's been really helpful. So the main message I want to get across for you is that it's possible for you to not smell like shit without deodorant. You can focus on the early steps to do this. Like you don't think you have to do everything all at once. So you can first start with eating less processed foods. And that could be a great way to get started if you want to do this. What I learned is that helped me with my energy to eat less processed foods. I focused on hydration, so staying hydrated. That was really helpful. And then I made the decision to go without deodorant. After doing that, all those different steps, seeing that other people could do it and taking the leap forward, making it happen. But then what you'll notice is you can have a better sense of when you're feeling stressed and feeling anxious. And you can identify what is the belief underneath that is causing me to feel that way. And when you can notice those patterns, it becomes easier with clarity for how you can move through those blocks is how you can think about it and move through feeling stuck. Because you can now identify what's a new belief you can add in here that can help you to make that old belief that's disempowering. Eventually, you can let go of it and think of it as a memory. And then it's just cool for how you show up. I remember when I had at the beginning with no deodorant, I went to a grocery store and I was nervous at first. Also really excited to do this. I felt alive, but I'm like, oh man, I wonder if people are going to notice that I smell. And I got through it. I went, got all my groceries, checked out, and that reinforced that I can do this. This is possible. And it reinforces then that it's possible for me to move towards what I want in building the business, because that stuff ripples out. When you feel like you're winning and you're making things happen and you're moving forward and growing, that ripples out into all areas of life, including then the business. And I can take that momentum moving forward to realize what else is possible for me. What else has been holding me back? I get curious rather than staying stuck with that fear. So if you want to try it, you absolutely have the capabilities to do that. 30 days without deodorant. Make sure you take in all those different factors, create the plan for yourself to move forward and try that out. Or you can just take the insight, which is noticing when you feel that stress and feel anxious, what is the belief that is causing that for you? And address that. Focus on that. So then all these other small balloons and is how you can think about it, but these small problems, you don't stay stuck in making those big problems. And you raise your baseline of growth of what's possible. And you pop those balloons and increase that capacity in your body. And I want to remind you, if you haven't heard it yet today, I believe in you. You have the capabilities as a human being to listen to your body, notice those signals, and make those changes to behaviors and to your habits in order to move towards making burnout extinct. And it's remembering it absolutely is possible for you. You got this.